Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Huda London. This is for entertainment purpose only. This is the case of the Idaho quadruple murders. May the victims rest in peace. Condolence to the families, and may the correct justice be served. We know, or we've been told, that Brian Kohlberger's knife sheet or a knife sheet with touch DNA that linked to Brian Kohlberger through the genealogical DNA was found there, near Madison Morgan's bed. But the question is, do we have proof that Brian Christopher Kohlberger walked into that house, parked his car? He was seen in the area, or his car pinged driving near the area. That doesn't prove that he walked into the house, committed a quadruple murders in such a short time, taking the chance that there are actually 5 roommates. There was a 6th roommate who wasn't there or moved out. We're still not sure of that. This is a house that had parties. They're young college students. Many people knew the access code of the keypad to get in. We've seen the house layers. It's quite difficult, especially if somebody hasn't been inside that property before. Just because his car pinged in the areas, it doesn't necessarily mean that he parked his car, walked into the house, and committed these crimes. I know that motive is not important to prove, but motive is everything. Because motive gives you the link, the connection to what communication or what contact did Brian Kohlberger have with any of the 4 victims, or the surviving 2 roommates too. Why would Brian Kohlberger just take the chance of walking into a house with 5 roommates and eaten? They did not know, or he wouldn't know, who lives in the house, how many people were present in the house that night, if they were having a party or not. He wouldn't know if the doors were easily accessed to, if he could enter from the sliding doors or the windows or from wherever. What was the motive? I've heard people saying that Brian Kohlberger was stalking Maddie, may she rest in peace, and I've heard before that he could have been stalking Kaylee. But there's no link to him having any contact with Kaylee. Maddie, if he is following her on Instagram or on social media, how many people follow each other? That doesn't necessarily mean the person is a killer. Trigger warning. We've heard clearly, just an example, Inan Harsh saying that the doors and the windows are left unlocked. How would he know that? Inan Harsh said himself that if he was going to do these brutal crimes, he would have tried to access the property from the sliding doors. Why would Brian Kohlberger, who has a degree in psychology as his bachelor's, criminology as his master's, and crime and justice in his PhD, he knows everything there is to know about a crime scene. He studied it. He's supposed to be a sharp, intelligent student. Why would he just go with a leather night shift and leave it there? I've heard people saying that, or he thought he was too perfect and he could do this and get away with it. So why would he leave it? Why would Brian Christopher Kohlberger commit these horrific quadruple murders and then just drive back to Washington, Pullman, while the police was searching for a Hyundai, white Hyundai? He knew he had a white Hyundai. But he didn't think of turning himself in because he knew, allegedly, that he may have known that he had nothing to do with these crimes. And if Brian Kohlberger came to this property, like law enforcement are saying and the FBI, that his phone pinged there, what was the reason it pinged there? Was he there maybe to visit one of the surviving roommates? Allegedly, could someone have called him to frame him? Was there other people involved? The Hyundai Elantra that was in question on the 7th of December 2022 was clearly a 2011 to a 2013 Hyundai Elantra, a white color. The one that was shown in the gas station in Troy Road had tinted windows. It had dark windows. We know that Brian Kohlberger's car doesn't have tinted windows. The police kept on saying occupants that were in a white Elantra in the model of 2011 to 2013 was seen around the area, around the immediate area. Now there's a difference between person and persons, occupant and occupants. It looked like they were searching for people in a car, not a single man who was driving around. Is it possible that Brian Kohlberger, allegedly, could it be possible that he knew BF or he knew DM? Genealogical DNA was usually used for cold cases, like the Golden Killer. It wasn't used for cases that are active, like Brian Christopher Kohlberger. I personally believe that the timelines that we were told was between 3 to 4 changed all of a sudden to 5 past 4 when they tried to link it to the white Hyundai Elantra. How come so many people were ruled out so quickly? I'm talking about examples are Hoodie Guy, John Shawalter. He was the last person seen with Maddie and Katie. What about the Sigma Chi boys? Ethan and Xana were clearly there in the Sigma Chi, so was Bethany Funk. We've heard plenty of times that there was a fight that happened in the Sigma Chi. The police were called at 1 minute past 3. What happened? Why was the police searching for the timelines of the couple? The police weren't searching for the timelines of Kaylee and Maddie. what happened in the Sigma Chi. I cannot look away from the Fortune article, which could actually be true, because the way they predicted how they're going to do it makes sense with how the murders happened, allegedly. They said they were going to do it in 19 minutes. They said they're not going to take any phones with them. We saw 4 figures running. We saw the 3 young men in the Banfield stop running away from the police. The officer was telling them to stop, and they still walked away. The officer, the undercover officer, put on his torch. They still kept on walking away. You could hear the officer running after them. And when he finally stopped them and asked them, why were you running? Why didn't you pull up when I asked you to? Why didn't you stop when I asked you to stop? They actually had the audacity to say, we thought you were fake cops. Now, when and how does that happen that people talk to officers like that? And the officers were actually just laughing and making a conversation with them like nothing happened. One of them had clothes that the shirt was too small for him. His pants looked like a female pant. He had on Vans shoes. And I want to apologize because I said Van Nuys. That was a mistake. It's Vans. So he had on a shoe pattern that was found in front of Dylan's room. Was somebody trying to frame Brian Koberger? It's just a question. Since they can't find any blood evidence, when such a horrific crime happens with 4 people, 4 victims involved, we know that liquid gets exchanged. You all know what liquid means, the red liquid. There would have been more DNA found on the scene. So was there a cleaning crew that came and cleaned up? Just a question. How could DM have seen a man with bushy eyebrows? Wasn't it dark? And if you see somebody who doesn't belong in your property, and you can see them with dark clothing on, would you actually stand there and wait to see what kind of eyebrows he has? The shape of his face? The height? Don't forget, DM said that he was athletically built. So that means you got a good peep of how the person looked. Or is that something that should be questioned and investigated? DM allegedly had a lot of pictures that night with a boyfriend, Quinn Kelly, on VSO. All of that was deleted. What was actually going on in Kings Road? Isn't it strange that the coroner pronounced their deaths after 2 a.m.? Could something have happened when Kaylee and Maddie came home at 1:56? We are told to believe that this happened at 4 a.m. because Kaylee and Maddie made 10 calls on the whole to Jack D. How do we know that somebody did not use Kaylee and Maddie's phone to make those calls to Jack D? while the girls were unlived? How do we know that Xana was on TikTok? Sometimes you have your app open. Somebody else could go in your app, your husband, your wife, your children, your friends, and it'll look like you are on the app. It doesn't necessarily mean, that doesn't convince me that Xana was actually using the app. It doesn't convince me that Maddie or Kaylee called Jack D. Where was Jack D that night? I understand that the parents are convinced that Jack D is 100% family, 200% off the hook. My question is, where was Jack D? Where was John Showalter? We heard he was driving to Boise for 6 hours. He made his journey around 2 a.m. at night. What confirmation or what proof is there to back up his alibi? Jasmine Knodel, Xana's sister, got the call in the morning that something happened to Xana and the other roommates. She got a call from Xana's friend. Xana's friends, she said. Kaylee's friends, Eva, was crying and saying she got the call at 10 a.m. that something happened to Kaylee. She said, I called Kaylee's phone, but it wasn't ringing. Who put off Kaylee's app? Was it Lyndon? Who put it off at 11:38? Alivira has said that to the news, and I believe her. Kaylee's older sister did most of the homework for the police. Let's be honest. She's a strong sister who went immediately and called the driver who drove the girls home. She took the information to the police. She did her own investigation. How come half of the college, or maybe the whole of the college students, knew about it before 911? This doesn't make sense. I do understand there's a gag order in place, but isn't Brian Kohlberger entitled to a correct trial? Isn't his attorney, Ann Taylor, entitled to getting the 3 unidentified male DNAs that was found in the scene? Aren't they entitled to get the roadmap of how the FBI linked the genealogical DNA to Brian Kohlberger? Don't they usually say nobody's guilty until proven guilty by the court of laws? I personally believe that if it was a case that the prosecution was confident about, they would have handed over all of these